back to another video. Today we're going to be trying to wrap up our deployment series. And if you recall from previous videos, if we are in GitLab, we have some new pipelines where our tests are working now again. And if we come to our pipelines, we have our tests working, and now we have this new deploy script, which is deploy to VM. Not running here, of course. And we run our deploy script from adding when we create a tag. And so at this point, we have our latest tag is right here. And if we take a look at this, we'll see that we can SSH into our virtual machine. We're getting all the new changes, and then we're going to be running a deploy script. And so in order for us to get our project updated, so we have the new code changes. What we're going to do is we're going to write some of these commands in our machine, in our virtual machine, which I'm SSH'd into right now. And then as we do that, we're going to actually just copy those over into our deploy script itself. So I think the first thing that we can do is, how do we update our front end project? So if we come back to our front end project and we go to package, we have this npm, this build script, and this is going to build into this build folder, and yeah, so let's just go ahead and run that npm run build, and we'll see what actually comes out of this. So if we come back here and we are at our building streaks, we see that our Nginx has a 500 error, which I think could be happening because we just removed our entire build folder. Now if we run and we update, so this looks like we definitely don't. We saw that there is some actual downtime when we run this, and so I think what we do want to consider is, how can we actually do this? And let's try this again. So let's run it, and let's be double sure that we keep refreshing while it's building. It is it brings our entire server down. So I think what we want to do is we want to build this in a different folder. So I think what we can do is we can continue to refresh. This is building, and there's our files once it's finished. So let's see if we can build into a new folder. So let's ask Chat, or we can just ask Google, into new folder. All right. So we can add a build path. The build path will be wiped out without mercy. So I think this is actually something that perhaps we want to Okay, so maybe perhaps one of our problems is that we're building this, and really we could be building this instead of pulling into the same and like serving our web app from the same folder as we're building. That's probably not best practice. But I think what we can also do is just run this command and we can actually just have another script. And what we can do is we'll add in this new build path variable. And we'll just add this here, build path. And we will make this called our dist folder. And what we'll do is we'll build into this folder, and then once it's done, we'll move our we'll move that folder into. We'll take the contents of that folder and then throw it into our build folder. So let's go ahead and just what we can do is we'll let's go ahead and deploy this, and we can actually just maybe we'll just go ahead and write this. I think this should work anyways. So we are going to, first we're going to go into our serve folder, our serve web folder. We are going to run this npm run build. And then let's look up in bash how to replace one folder's contents with another. Maybe I need to sign in. Oh, okay. In bash how to replace one contents folder with another. We could delete the old build folder and then replace it, but I would like to just, so rsync, deleting and copying. This will probably do the, so using the copy with overwrite option. Yeah, perhaps we can, this will not remove files, but will overwrite. Maybe we'll just go with a very simple deleting and copying, and then we can adjust this over time. So what we'll do is we'll do a remove rf of our build directory, and then we'll do a copy. Is it an R? Or really it's a move. So then we're gonna move our dist to our build. And then we're gonna remove rf our dist folder. So let's go ahead and deploy this. Update deploy script. Let's push this up and we will create a tag. Another thing too is I don't really want to run all of our, actually we just pushed it. So what we can actually just do, since we're just testing this, is we will just go ahead and git pull here. And then we can just run the script ourselves. So if we come up and we run deploy, so we do bash deploy. Okay, so we see it building. Let's go ahead to our app. We're refreshing. Refresh. So it has not moved us down yet. Okay. We're refreshing. It's still building. Okay, this still looks like all this refreshing is still, let's make sure we're not caching anything. Yeah, we're disabling our cache. Okay. It looks like we did build, and there was no command that actually saw that we did build. I suppose it would be nice if we could actually see. Okay, this is what we'll do. Let's run this again, and we're going to see that this is the name of our file. So our name of our file is, we'll call it D4A. And what we'll do is we'll continue to refresh. We see this D4A, and we should see that hash actually change once our build is done. Assuming that it's not like a consistent hash. So let's see. So it's actually the same exact hash. Perhaps what we need to do is we can make a small change. So let's just go ahead and we'll do one small update, and that is we will say, let's just do add task, and we'll just call this, we'll just put a little plus sign for now, just to test this out. So let's just do test commit to try build deploy. This is the worst commit message, but it's just for us. We know what we're doing. Okay, so we pushed. Let's go into our, so we need to pull our changes. And then we are going to run our script. That's going to build for us. And we'll see if we get that little plus sign, we know it's actually building. And what we're going to do is we're going to just keep refreshing our page. What we're trying to do is to see if there's any downtime for our app. So we're going to keep refreshing. We know it's going to take a little bit of time, and we do have our cache disabled, so it should pick up for us once this actually is reloaded. Oh, and there is our change. So we had no downtime for our front end. So that actually looks really, really good. That's the first step. So great, that's awesome. We have no downtime there. I think one of the things we want to think about is our web project is going to rely on our API. So what we can do is let's get our API also updated, but I think we want to like switch our front end and switch our back end at the same exact time. So we'll reload our back end. So for now, what we'll do is we're going to build our API too. So let's look at how to actually build the API now. Let's come in here and so for this, it looks like, so if we go to our API, I think, yeah, so we do have this dist folder already. Perhaps we can, so let's see how, can we so if we do pm2 list, okay, so here is our API, and let's just ask how to check where, check command of pm2 process. Okay, so we're gonna have pm2 describe our ID 0. This then is running this serve dist API, or serve dist server.js. So what we'll need to do actually is we'll want to, we can comment this. We are going to build our API in dist2. We'll migrate. This is for another project. And then we will move, we're going to remove the dist and plus copy dist2 into dist, reload PM2. So that'll be our process here. So what we need to do is figure out, well, how do we actually compile our, the interesting thing is if we just run, if we do a cat, if we log out what's in here again, and we just do a build, this is going to build, I think this is just going to, it's our out directory is building. So perhaps what we can actually do is, perhaps our out directory really should not be dist, and we can build this without really, so let's actually do this. How to override out dir from TSC compile. Okay, so we can actually change this out direction. So let's try that. So we're going to do npm run, and our command is going to be build, except we're going to do out dir is equal to dist2. And we'll just do this. And we'll see if this actually works. And I think when we want to actually test too, because we are testing the API, let's go ahead and, okay, so this is where we can actually test if we're updating. So if you do an ls now, we do not have a dist2 here. Let's see if we can run TSC TypeScript, and it's interesting to me that when we are okay, so when we start, that's PM2 is not running. It's interesting. How are we getting our environment variables in our process if we have script path, script args? It doesn't seem, I don't understand how we're getting our variables from our server, unless we have some defaults for, right? So where are all our defaults coming from, where we would specify our database connection and stuff like that? So if we come here, connecting to database, if we do PM2 logs, okay, it does say Postgres here, which is interesting. I don't really know. So if I do PM2 reload 0 and do PM2 logs, so I definitely see that. Let's go ahead in here and actually see if and we can see here, maybe we should just be using a different production idea here. But yeah, so let's do this PM2 show 0. I'm really curious to how we're actually getting our environmental variables in here. Very, very curious now. I guess it's been a couple days since I have looked at this, and so it's curious. I guess we have this, but we're not using this database script here. When we start up, we're just running PM2. So, okay, maybe we can try this. Let's do a PM2 show, and we'll say this is just called our API, I believe. Okay. Yeah, I definitely do not see anything in here that is is, I see that it is running this JavaScript default watch and reload. No. There's a lot of information in here, that's for sure. It's interesting that it even has this old, yeah, I guess that is our old working directory. So we are running this, our API. I guess we're just doing node, and then we're just running this serve dist, and we've called that. Yeah, it's really interesting how we are getting our server. If we come to connect database and we do initialize, now if we get data source config, I see this Postgres, and yeah, it doesn't seem like we're setting this anywhere. Show environment variables, perhaps. So let's try that. Print and okay, we definitely do not have any of these yeah, I really do not understand where we are, how this is even running right now, how our app is even running, because it definitely does not look like it's so I guess we don't have to worry about it right this second, and what we can do is let's just go ahead and build, and we'll reload, and I'll look up and outside of this video on how, and maybe I can report back. So let's go ahead and build. Instead of actually even running this npm run command, what we'll do is we'll just run the command ourselves directly using the outdir, and we'll change this functionality. So if we come in here, let's go to package, and so it's pretty simple for us. We're just gonna compile it with an outdir of equals to dist2, and yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and run that. Okay, so it does not like dist2 like this. It does not like this either. Okay, let's see how if we can compile. Oh, it's because it's not an equals at all, just a space. Okay, so we are going to, we're compiling to a different directory, and so we'll copy this guy out. We'll put that in our deploy script. We'll worry about migrating, I think, in another video. So we'll just put this as a to-do. And what we'll do is we'll put that in the right position here. And we have migrate database, reload PM2, and we're gonna adjust the order of this as well. So, okay, let's go back to our server. So if we ls, so we do see this dist2 now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a remove dist. Then we're going to do a move of dist2 to dist, and then we're gonna do a PM2 reload. We're gonna do reload API. Oh, I guess our environmental variables. This is actually, so we must, when we originally ran on this PM2, we must have put in some, so let's actually check that. Let's see. Check environmental variables for PM2 process. can actually verify this. Okay, well, we already did this. So PM2 describe API. I see this divergent. This is what makes me feel like it's not the actual environment variables that were supplied originally. And maybe this is actually a bigger reason on why we should just be getting our variables from like some config file or something like that. But anyways, this looked like that actually works. So I think what we'll do is we're going to do we're going to compile into our dist2. Once we're done, we're going to remove, and the other thing is we need to go into our serve API folder, and we're going to do a very similar technique. Actually, all this stuff we want to do probably before. So we're going to do this prepare and then reload. We're going to do this in 2 steps. So first we're going to prepare so we're going to have to prepare API. So we'll call it build and then reload. We'll call it restart services. So build API, that is doing this. We're going to go into the API directory. We're going to rebuild. We're going to then remove the dist folder. We're going to then move dist2 to dist. And that's it for that. Then we are going to build, this is actually going to be part of so we're going to build our web project here. So build web. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have to do this migration part. And so let's remove some of this extra code. Build to, we don't need that. We're going to have a to-do. So then we're going to have to restart services. So our first thing we're going to do is we'll reload our API, which may take a little bit longer. So we're going to say restart API, and this is actually really easy. So we're just going to do PM2 reload API, and that's done. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we're in our web project, and we're going to say point build folder to our point Nginx's static files. We don't even say it. We're going to we'll just say restart web in quotes. So that's going to consist of removing the old build file and doing what we were doing before. And then we have this to do step. So this should actually do everything in sequence. So we'll call it 1. And maybe we'll do something like this. We'll just separate this like that. If we do that, does it make a difference? No. And then we'll just move this over so we can actually see that there is a difference between the two. So let's go ahead and add script to reload API. Let's push this. And I think maybe in this video we will do our migration of our database, just so we have kind of a full, we're kind of done with this step, and we can actually go back to development of our app. So we're going to push our changes. So over here we can actually go up, pull everything over, and then we're going to do bash deploy. and we're gonna see if this actually works. So what we'll do here is we'll go to our app. So we see this running in the background. Maybe we should be echoing out some logs so we can actually see that it's doing something. So maybe we'll do that. We'll do echo building API, and we'll do building web, and then we'll say restarting API, restarting web. Okay, looks like we have redeployed, we're reloading, we're good. And let's just actually check if our API is rebuilding, and see if there is any downtime. So what we can do is we can type in this welcome, and we're just gonna do a really simple, and we'll call this, we'll say add more useful deployment logging plus test API deployment. So we'll push our changes one more time. We'll go and get our changes, and then we will deploy everything in. So we'll see our build API, and here is our, so welcome to the Streaks API. We need to actually change this to, well, Streaks API is good enough for now. So building API, building web. Now we're actually, so that's done, or it's still working. So our Streaks API is still what it was before. It's still what it was before, it's still what it was before. And then once it's done, this is gonna reload our API, which should be relatively quick. And then our front end we saw is basically near instant. Okay, so if we refresh, we notice that there's actually, so it does say restarting web. Let's see. It definitely, oh, so our API actually takes a bit more time. So that is actually really interesting. Our API does have some downtime, and maybe that's something that we want to fix, and we're gonna have to make this as a to-do list. So we're gonna put as a to-do API restarting. It's almost like we want to restart a new process on another port, and then we could actually just point our Nginx to start pointing to the new service, and then we would tear down the other one. So that's kind of like what Kubernetes would do in the background, but we can actually do that ourselves in a really simple way. So API, so I'm going to say start API in another PM2 process. We still have some downtime. Start API to PM2 as a new process. Point Nginx to, a little thing here, point to new process, delete old process. PM2 process once started. Once new is started. So that's how we can actually get no downtimes. Now the interesting thing is we are gonna have this interesting point, and that's like our database is gonna need to be migrated, and we could be running an old service. And yeah, I don't think we need to really dive into that yet, because there is really still problems on migrating, and though we technically would have a small amount of downtime, or we could, depending on the type of migration. So, but yeah, I don't think we need to worry about that for now. Okay, so migrating our database, how do we do that again? I wonder if we can just do history and actually see if we can find the steps on actually to migrate. And just seeing this, like this was actually so we were wondering about our environmental variables. Well, this is how we started this originally. So that's that. Let's actually just go find, and what we can do is we can do a history grep, and we'll just do migrate. Or let's see, what is our, okay, so it's migration. So this is actually the step on actually to migrate the database. So we can literally, if we want, just copy this in here. And what we can do is we can actually test this. So let's go to our API and we can just test this script right now. And this is gonna be like how we can just drop this in. So there we go. So we can even just, to migrate the database, we're gonna say echo migrating database. And we're gonna do cd into our API. And then we are gonna literally just run this script. I'm kind of wondering how you break these up. This is really long. Let's ask ChatGPT how to break up long line in bash. Is there a way to do this? To escape the end of a line, indicating that the command continues on the next line. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. And we'll just kind of, when working with variables. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll do our whole test. Add ability to migrate in deployment script. We'll pull in our changes. So git pull, and then we'll go back up and we'll run our deployment script and we'll see what happens here. So we're building our API, that makes sense. And what we can do is also we can kind of just do refreshes on the front end to see what kind of experience we're expecting here. So we're refreshing, there is still no downtime. We do know that there is going to be some downtime when the server restarts, but ideally that's not going to happen until, we're building. If anything fails in this process, we're going to be okay. So we refresh. And now our app is actually taking a little bit longer. It was checking our migrations. Oh, okay, we're restarting our web. It looks like our backend is now failing because of this. And now our backend is up, so we'll continue to refresh. And there we go. So this is looking really good now. I think we actually have a good enough process to consider this done. I think the last steps, what we can do is let's go ahead and we have these new jobs. We have these pipelines. Let's see if they're running right now. It looks like they are. I think what we can do is we'll run a full pipeline and see if this actually changes. And what we'll do in our pipeline is let's make one more change. Let's get rid of our plus sign. So we are going to get rid of this guy, and within our app, we're going to remove the exclamation points. So we're going to exit out of our SSH session, and we're going to just add revert some test changes. Keep typing gut instead of git. So we're pushing, everything's up to date. All right, so let's go ahead to GitLab and we're going to monitor our processes. So we see these revert some test changes, that's fine, and that's actually great that that's running. But what we also want to do is we want to create a tag, because in the future we're going to make changes and we want to actually see if, so we're going to call this 4.2.15.1. We're going to create it from the main branch, and we're actually going to monitor if we can actually get a real deployment from here. Oh, and so this is actually, let's go ahead and cancel this guy. And the reason for that is I actually want to do one more step. And so in our, we want to run all, we only want to run our deployment scripts if we can pass our previous stages. So only run deployment if build plus test stages run successfully. So we're going to push that guy up, and then we're going to go ahead and remake another tag. And this extra tag is going to be 4.2.15.2 because it's the second of the day. Go back to our tags and we see our new pipelines running. We should see all of them going now in sequence. Okay, so we're going to build. If that runs, then we're going to test, and then we're going to deploy. So, and hopefully this is like an arrow. It's not just a either or, but in fact, I actually don't know if that's the case, and we're gonna have to see this over time. Maybe we'll have to break a test in the future to try that out. But yeah, we're just gonna monitor this, and we'll ask ChatGPT, do GitLab CI stages continue if earlier stage fails? Okay, so by default, they will not execute. You'd have to explicitly say allow failure. So we are not doing that, which is using rules. You can also control the execution using rules or the only. Okay, so it looks like we should be pretty safe from this because we're not trying to override anything. Let's see if this page is live. Okay, so our build step is good. We'll pull this guy over, aka me. Our build step is good. Let's look at our API. Let's see if our tests are gonna run. I'm not really sure how long these take on average. So maybe it's a good time to just go and look on that too. So pipelines, let's go. And we're actually running 2 of these, no big deal. Our test API, this is taking about 1 minute now. So not too bad. Let's go to this. And so it's 42 seconds, so we should be pretty close to being done. And if we come back here, remember when we're done, we're gonna get rid of this plus sign. So we can refresh. Okay, our job is succeeded. Let's close these guys down. And now we are on our last step of our build, of our deployment. So now we're in our deployment itself, and we're gonna monitor this guy. When it is done, we remember this, our exclamations are gonna go away and our plus is going away. But let's go ahead and monitor our deployment script now. Yeah, I don't know how long this takes. Oh, that was extremely quick. Oh, cannot stat dist, no such file. npm command not found. npm command not found. pm2 command not found. Okay, well that's really interesting now that we cannot actually run half of these things. And now our entire app is down. So, interesting. it looks like for some reason, so we've went into TSC command not found. When running commands in bash script from GitLab CI, commands are not found, but when I run them on the server directly, when I run the script on the server directly, it ran fine. And what we can do, I think we did manually do this. Okay, often points to differences in the environment between them. So the path is different. Your command, different shell environments. Okay, so script, bash your script is different between the way we're doing it and so we were able to do ls when we ran this guy, which is the interesting part. So it does say bash deploy. We were able to, yeah, run, but maybe we sure your script is compatible with the shell used by GitLab CI, or specifically, well, we definitely ran bash, and this is supposed to be executed within the I wonder if we just run this on the server directly. Let's actually just try that before we get too involved. So let's sshn, and we'll run that exact script, assuming so we're just gonna run all these. Already up to date, building API. What did it do when it ran it for us on the server? Our script said it added us, it pulled our changes, it said building API, and then immediately, well, it looks like that worked actually, which is really interesting. Now maybe it's because we're already up to date. So what we can do is we can try to just redo this tag again. You know what I do? I think this video is running pretty long. What I'll do is I'm gonna make a part 2 of this after I investigate some more. So I will see you in the next one, and we'll get to the bottom of this, and we'll have a finished deployment. Really excited actually. I thought this was going to be much more difficult, and I think you know, I'm already learning a couple things on this. So yeah, I will see you in the next video.